Awesome. Hey everyone.
Hi.
How are you
Hello.
doing? Awesome. So first of all, I'm gonna check the sound, just like always, just to make sure that we're not gonna have some issues with this. But I think everything is okay on my side. So awesome. Hello to everyone who was waiting already in the chats, and welcome to you, Henri Pihkala, to this live stream again.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So, what is the goal of this stream today? The goal is to be able to answer a couple of questions of the community, make sure that we can answer some questions that are sometimes repeated as well on Discord. And we really try to take each time the best questions of the community, like always, and make sure that we can afterwards have a great video where everyone can just jump back on it and make sure that they can have everything resolved with this very complicated technical project for some people. So we will make sure to be able to do our best. So
Hey, did you hear any noise from my end just now?
yes, I did,
Yeah.
but it's a little bit quiet. It's still okay, to be honest, at least for me. So maybe we can also ask the viewers later on if it's very annoying or not. I think they're
Of,
working.
of course, someone starts drilling exactly when the live stream
It's
is
always like
starting.
that.
Yeah. I'll try to mute when it happens. Hope it's not too bad.
I think it's okay, but we will for sure ask later on as well when we have a little bit more viewers. But maybe we can jump directly in with the very first question. So all the questions are quite random, so there's not one real topic like just for network or the dev part or marketing. It's really all kind of different questions today. So be ready for that.
Okay.
Awesome. So the first one is someone was asking how would it be good to understand on how we and why that we need private keys for the nodes actually.
Why we need private keys for the node? Well, every identity in the Streamr network is also an Ethereum wallet. And they use the keys to sign messages. So when a publisher publishes a message, they use the private key to sign it so that it cannot be tampered along the way. And similarly, subscribers are also Ethereum identities. And why is that? Well, that's useful for checking permissions. So when a subscriber wants to access some data from the network, they send a key request to the publisher. And then the publisher can check, is this guy supposed to have access to this stream? And if yes, they will respond with the decryption key. And for this to work, also the subscriber needs to have identity in the system, which is the Ethereum address. And that enables that we can store these permissions in the smart contract and check them from there. So it all comes from having these cryptographic identities in the system, and that's a good thing because we can do the cryptography as well as have composability features, like smart contracts can grant access to a party, to a stream, and stuff like that.
Okay, awesome.
And of course, like if you're running miners, so if you're doing the staking and mining stuff in the network, then you need a wallet where your stake is and where your earnings are paid. And that also comes from the private key. So that is the private key is your wallet, right? That's how it works.
Without it, you can't get anything, of course. Wouldn't actually work.
Yeah, the network wants to pay you. That's why you need the private key.
Okay, cool, awesome. That was perfectly answered. The people are wondering. So, because today we know that the Polygon network is one of the networks, the most used at Streamr as well, because of our running node in our staking today. But how can we get access to those data tokens on Polygon today? So there's different ways, of course. What is one of the best ways, or can you maybe explain us today what kind of different possibilities that we have to be able to get access to them?
So do you mean how to get data tokens onto Polygon?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, first approach is to bridge them. So if you already have data tokens somewhere else, then you can bridge them to Polygon. And there's basically two bridges. There's the official one that's maintained by Polygon, and is kind of trusted or trustless in the sense that there's like a number of bridge validators there. So that's the official Polygon bridge. I think the address is something like wallet.polygon something. You'll find it. And that works. It doesn't cost a lot of gas, a little bit more than a transfer, but you'll get your tokens across. And the other way to bridge is through Binance. So basically, you would deposit your data tokens to Binance and then go to the Binance user interface, log in there, go to your wallet, and then withdraw them. And when you withdraw, you can choose the network. So Polygon is an option there. In that case, the bridging is kind of handled in a centralized way by Binance, and the tokens are backed. The tokens that back the tokens that are on Polygon, they are actually in Binance's custody on mainnet. So it's not as decentralized as the Polygon bridge, but it's easy to use at least. So that's the other bridge to Polygon. And of course, if you don't have data tokens yet, but you want to get some in order to participate in the mining or staking, then you can also get some tokens directly on Polygon. And so there are some dexes where you can trade on there. Not sure if there's several or where the biggest liquidity is, but I think on QuickSwap,
Exactly. I think so.
used to be the biggest liquidity, I think.
Exactly. And maybe also based on what you just said with Binance, for all the people who don't really actually understand like the bridge and how it works and with the liquidity there, a little bit more than a month ago, Henri explained perfectly how it works. Even with a very good design as well. So feel free to have a look also there. It was very perfectly explained. It's not always easy to understand, of course. There's a first question in the chat just based on what we were just actually talking. Are we planning to go on other networks? For example, on Tron, on Echo, I see here as well in the chats, or maybe other ones?
Yeah, maybe. I think first of all, the token can quite easily be bridged to any EVM compatible chain. So if there's a chain that runs smart contracts that are Ethereum compatible, then it's quite easy to kind of get the token there as long as there's the chain itself and a reasonable bridge that can be used. So that would be the first step. And then the other step is bringing the actual applications of the Streamr system onto that chain, such as the staking mechanisms or the network level smart contracts and that kind of stuff. And on the other hand, maybe like the marketplace or data unions and stuff like that. So those are all kind of independent things with different complexity levels. So easiest is to bring the token, and then it can be traded on dexes or whatever. That's kind of useful. The second easiest is to bring the higher level applications like the marketplace or data unions to chains. And that is currently happening. We're working on an upgrade to the marketplace and also the data unions that would allow them to be easily deployed to new chains. The first ones will be Polygon and Gnosis chain, but it's quite easy to add other EVM chains as well. And the hardest of all is to bring the staking and the mining stuff onto other chains, because then we'd have to kind of have this cross-chain cross-chain computation of the stakes going on, and that's not very easy to do. So I think that will stay on Polygon for at least still a while. Maybe as we move towards Tatum, which is the next milestone, we might be able to expand at some point. But first, I think we have to focus on actually building Tatum before we focus on expanding it. So yeah, first make it work somewhere and then make it work everywhere, I think is a very reasonable approach.
I agree, 100%. Okay, cool. So I see there's already some questions also in the chat. I will take them for sure. Great questions. But we have also here another one from the community. Why does Korea still have a lot of activity at this moment? I know this. And also, why hasn't Swash migrated yet, for instance?
Yeah, so why is there still activity on Korea? Well, people are using it and finding it useful, I suppose. I think they're also a little bit lazy. I think the biggest thing still there is Swash, and we are working with those guys to move them over to Brubeck, and that is their goal. But it's quite big, and that's a good problem. They have 50,000 live users every day, so you have to kind of check some things before you move over and plan how to do the migration. So they're doing some scalability testing and that kind of stuff, which is also very useful for us because we can see what kind of requirements they have and what kind of boundaries they are hitting or so. But it looks pretty good. I think there's a plan for them to follow. I know they're busy with other things as well. They're building a lot of stuff. So probably moving to Brubeck is maybe not their number one thing that creates value for Swash, because the old thing is working as well. But it's a bit of a necessary chore to go through at some point.
Is there any date maybe where there's going to be this, we're going to change from when it's going to be shut down, Korea?
Originally, we announced end of May. That's actually today. So we're not going to shut it down today. But I think we can aim for end of August next. And so end of August, we'll check, is someone still using the Korea network? And if there's nothing significant there anymore, then we'll shut it down. And since it's a centralized network, we actually can shut it down. So I think Swash is a key player in that. Most of the other users of the network have already moved over to Brubeck, or newer teams, of course, have built their thing on Brubeck from the start, so they don't need to migrate. They are already there.
Okay, awesome. I'm just going to take the question of Renderer, if I pronounce it correctly. Hi, Anthony and Henri. Is there any security update planning related with the private key issue, encryption or similar something? Thanks.
Well, I wonder what issue is being referred. One feedback that the community has communicated before is that it's not the private key is in plain text in the config file. So that is one issue that we are aware of. And there's pros and cons. One benefit of that is that it can kind of start the node without interaction from the user. Otherwise, you'd have to enter a passcode or something to decrypt the private key, which is not great. Other options are that you could pass it in via environment variable or something, but it doesn't really add a lot of security, because if someone gets access to your machine, they can still read the private key. So I don't. You have to think about it a little bit more, like what would be a good approach. If the person who asked the question has some insights to that, please share your thoughts. We'd be happy to hear how you would do it. So it's not on the top of our list at this point in time, but we will improve it for sure, especially as we move closer to Tatum and there might be like more money going through the network and so on. Then security definitely becomes like a primary concern. Yeah, but at this point, it's maybe acceptable. Not great, but acceptable.
Okay. I know you've answered this question maybe many times in the last 5 years, but can you explain to us what is PubSub?
PubSub, okay. PubSub is a messaging pattern. It comes from publish, subscribe. So it refers to a messaging architecture where there are topics, which is like, well, a topic is like a collection of messages related to a certain thing, like a certain user or device or application or whatever. And then there are, and the topics in the Streamr system are called streams, which is logical, I suppose. And then there are publishers and subscribers. So publishers publish messages to topics, and then the messages are delivered to subscribers. And that's the essence of PubSub. So, in other words, what is that noise?
Someone wants to join the live.
Yeah, they have like a megaphone. Yeah. Someone's asking a question. Like, hey, what is this? Yeah, okay. So PubSub essentially decouples publishers and subscribers by offering like an infrastructure in between. So the publisher doesn't have to know who is subscribing or connect directly to them. And that's great for a number of reasons, because it achieves like a separation of concerns and also makes it easier to scale this kind of thing. So that is PubSub. Usually it's like in Web 2, it's like a server that everyone connects to that does the message brokering. But in case of Streamr, it's a decentralized protocol.
Awesome. So we know that sometimes in the summer, of course, because behind the project there's of course people, they have to work a lot, but they also need vacation sometimes, and most of the people take vacation in the summer. What can we expect from Streamr? Will it still be active this summer? Will we still see some content coming out? And will the dev team still be active?
Yeah, the project is always manned, so there is always someone here. So we don't all take holidays at the same time. We do take holidays, and we do take them in the summer usually. So summer is a little bit slower, but based on the experiences in the previous summers, it's not that significant, I suppose. So there's always some progress being made. Right now we're like in a quite comfortable building phase, like just coming off the Brubeck milestone. So that's kind of done and dusted. There's no deadline anymore on that. Now we're working towards the next things, which are still far enough away that there's no like super crazy pressure right now to ship on a certain date or anything. It's actually this time the summer comes into quite good spot. Earlier summers we've a little bit like made the bad choice of having some deadlines right after the summer, which is a really bad idea. You shouldn't do that. So this time it's quite okay.
Awesome. How do you imagine the future's data economy?
Oh, what a broad, what
It's
a
a very
broad
broad question, yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
I'm asking
yeah.
this also because we know that we are going to talk about this later in the next weeks as well, a little bit more. So I think it's to have your vision on this. It's always
Yeah, definitely. So this is a very important question for me, and it's something why I started Streamer, and really underlies the motivations behind why I started this and went to crypto, and I'm such a believer in this stuff. So how I see the future data economy, I think everyone agrees that uh, the amount of data is increasing all the time. There's people have like these digital native lives. We are exploring whatever metaverses and all kind of online spaces. In addition, all devices are becoming connected, not only phones but also cars and elevators and everything, forming the internet of everything. And when it comes to data economy, I think it's widely recognized that data can have a lot of value, and some people call it the new oil, indeed. But the parties that have so far mostly benefited from it is mainly the internet giants who have been able to get access to a lot of data via their business. So now we're talking Googles and Facebooks and Amazons and these. But I think it's not a good direction to go into that, especially that the kind of data economy is broadening and the amount of data is exponentially growing. So we definitely need more options there. And for me, decentralization and Web3 felt like exactly the right path to go, and guarantee that first of all, not all the data ends up in the same place, which is good because then the power is also distributed more evenly. Then the question arises: okay, where should the power be? And clearly, the power should be with the people. It should be with those who produce that data, and that is also something that blockchain and Web3 and decentralization and cryptography can all contribute to. And I don't think there will be like one protocol to rule them all, in the sense that all the data would go into one place, because so different use cases. And if we think about where we position is in the kind of real time and streaming data space, and then there can be other protocols for storing or sharing static data sets, or doing things around monetization. So I think it will be a very layered architecture where the bottom level technical infrastructure can have like different approaches, and then those can be decoupled with the higher level tooling that supports the data economy. And if you think about Streamer, our contributions to those higher level components then are things like data unions that allows data crowdsourcing in a certain pattern, or the marketplace or stuff like that. So it will be a very diverse ecosystem of ecosystems, I think, what the data economy will look like, and new kind of business models will be created there. So far, the only business model in the web and on the internet has been advertising. And although it's like very efficient and fully exhausted by now, it's certainly not the only game in town. So I think a very broad selection of different type of data-driven business models will arise in the data economy, and many different parties will be able to reap the benefits, as opposed to the current picture where only the big giants are reaping the benefits via advertising business models.
yeah. It's
Yeah, that's
It's something that we can speak for hours long, I think. There's so much to talk about, but very good answer, and thank you for sharing your vision on this.
It's a very broad question, so could probably do like a session just on that.
Exactly.
But that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we have here also why decentralized messaging apps will replace today's social media platforms.
Well, partly to the similar reasons that we discussed. I do think that decentralization is very strong, especially around the social media topic, because we've seen that. Well, okay, let's take one step back. So, what kind of information is in social media? It's mostly like something that's very personal, I suppose. You share your opinions and your data and stuff like that. And there's a lot of abuse, like there's scams, impersonations, just a lot of like all kind of noise in there. You can see it very well even in the crypto Twitter, that there's people are shilling their tokens and provoking each other and everything, and also like very big political questions about like will like spreading of fake news or some political propaganda or stuff like this be banned, or like navigating the line between censorship and free speech and stuff like that. So with decentralization, I think first of all the content becomes more trustworthy, in the sense that if we have like digital identities and those are coupled with the social media platforms, then we can usually say like or attribute some piece of content to someone who actually produced it, if they want to be this kind of verified or identified status. Like, if you see Henri posting something, you can be sure that it was actually Henri who posted it and stuff like that. But also it enables like censorship resistance, which I think is at the end of the day still good. I don't think it's a good idea that these companies will be able to intervene with the content for better or worse, but I think that's my take on it, I suppose. But it's not a clear-cut thing. There's pros and cons, definitely. And of course, like if people start to interact more with cryptographic-based things like wallets, then there's always a wallet behind everything. So you can have really nice features in social media, like tipping content creators and stuff like that will again create new business models for content creators as well. So it's a quite good fit in many ways, and has the potential to solve many of the problems that we experience with Web 2 social media platforms: concentration of power and abuse of personal data, unreliability of information and stuff like that.
Okay, yeah, thanks for this answer. I'm just going to take a question here again from the chat. Can you please give details about the delegation process coming up with the next milestone? Which nodes will be much more valuable, and how the system will run efficiently?
Okay, so giving a little bit of background to the question. So right now, if you run a minor node and stake, you have to kind of own all the tokens that are staked. And then your ability to stake and earn is limited by how many tokens you want to own, right? How much risk you want to carry in the ecosystem. Now, imagine if it was possible to stake somebody else's tokens, right? kind of like you would borrow some tokens from someone. Let's say Anthony has a lot of tokens and I don't have that many, but I have the technical skills to run a node. But I don't have really a lot of tokens so that I could kind of maximize the benefits from my node. So I could borrow some tokens from Anthony and promise to Anthony that I will share revenue. Whatever I earn with my node, I will share a certain percentage with Anthony. And I can decide that percentage. So my offer to Anthony is, hey, you'll get 70% and I'll get 30 or whatever. And okay, we make this deal. Then I have more tokens that I can stake on more streams and therefore earn more. And Anthony is happy because he doesn't need to do the work. And I'm happy because I'm earning a cut from this bigger share of revenue that I'm getting. So that's essentially what delegation means. Then Anthony delegates some tokens to me. It's quite similar to lending and borrowing.
I wanted to say it's also maybe the same than scholarship today in NFTs a little bit. Maybe. Do you know a little bit about that? Or where you can actually borrow your NFT, for example, and someone can play with the NFT in a play to earn game or something, but they don't have to play it to be able to earn money. They are just investors, but they don't want to participate. I think it's also a little bit similar than that.
Yeah, it's similar, except with fungible token.
Exactly.
So you lend me your tokens to play with in this game of staking. So it's exactly the same thing, and it's a very common pattern in many systems, especially in proof of stake blockchains. You commonly have this delegation pattern. So I hope that clarifies it. What was the exact question?
Just a little bit more details about delegation. So I think the question was answered, and which nodes were going to be more valuable. I think it's also maybe based on how long the node will be running without any shutdowns and these kind of things as well.
It's not a well-defined question which nodes are more valuable, but that some nodes will be earning more because they have maybe more capacity or so, and the earnings are determined by how much what the payers have paid into the bounty smart contracts, as well as what the miners have staked in there. So the staking kind of determines your share of how much you can earn, and then the delegation agreement determines the split between the node runner and the person who delegated. And different nodes or different brokers can have different parameters. So maybe there's one node that gives 70% to the delegators, and maybe there's another node that gives only 60% to the delegators, but somehow participates in higher value streams or whatever. So it might be earning, delegators might earn more with that node, even though they get a smaller cut. So the only way to really compare is to look at the stats. So I would imagine that we build some kind of web application where you can see, like, if you want to delegate, and you can see like what nodes are there, what kind of metrics you're getting from them, what they have earned in the past, and how many people have delegated to them, and this kind of basic stuff. And then you can make choices based on that. It's very similar to some other systems. So if you go and delegate on Polygon or LivePeer or whatever, it's quite similar. So I think there are good reference points to look at to get like an idea of how it might work. And then, of course, like automating things is a whole another topic. So some people who would do it professionally would probably like write some scripts to find always like the optimal nodes to delegate to and stuff like that. But that's like second level stuff. So first you can do it manually and then automate. And the cool thing about open platforms is that anyone can really build tooling on top. So there can be different strategies. It's not possible to build like one strategy because people will have different preferences and different types of like, well, at least risk tolerance and this kind of stuff. Someone might only want to delegate to a very established broker where everyone else is, but maybe the earnings are then less, whereas someone might want to give some tokens to some newer nodes who don't have much of a track record, but are maybe giving a bigger share to the delegators and so on. So only you can really make those decisions.
Yeah, I can't wait to be able to see that milestone and people using this delegation as well in the future. It's going to be really amazing to see as well. It's good for the network. Talking also a little bit about Tatum, actually. So can you tell us a little bit more about the scalability of the Streamr network after maybe the milestone of Tatum? It's a difficult question to answer today, but what can we maybe expect, for example?
Yeah. It's not really difficult because the network and the message passing in the network will stay the same, essentially. So the things that Tatum adds is the incentives there. So what it does enable is that you can kind of hire more nodes into your topologies. But so like the simple answer is that it scales already now, and the Tatum only adds the incentives. But there is one remaining thing that is kind of like a scalability bottleneck and also a small element of centralization in the network, which is the trackers. So trackers are like utility nodes in the network that help nodes discover each other in the network. So otherwise they're kind of like in a dark room. So I'm trying to find Anthony and I'm like, oh, where is everybody? So trackers are like the light in the room. So it allows the nodes to see each other and find each other. But problems can occur if there's huge topologies with a lot of nodes that all try to connect to the same tracker and stuff like that. So from purely like a scalability point of view, getting rid of trackers allows bigger topologies, so more participants in a single stream from some point of view. So and this change we are currently working on and researching, and it will probably come either with Tatum or earlier. So it might even come earlier, but let's see how it goes. It's making good progress so far. So it replaces this kind of tracker utility by being able to discover nodes and create the topologies over a DHT, which is like it's a distributed hash table, which is like a distributed data structure. I'm not going to go into the details of that. But it should work fine and remove trackers completely from the network, which will make it even more decentralized, I suppose, and also improve the scalability. But scalability has many dimensions, so you can think about topology size or message volume or how many streams you can have and so on. And many of these dimensions already scale very well without really any limitations. But the topology size of lots of nodes in the same stream partition is still like a tricky situation, because then everyone is connecting to the same tracker, and the limit there is something around 10,000 nodes at the moment. We observed this kind of limits in the test nets that we ran late last year. So yeah, that is still like maybe the only remaining scalability bottleneck in the network. But it comes only after you have a very serious use case with 10,000 nodes subscribing to the same thing. So most users will not go anywhere near that limit.
Yeah, it's going to be it's going to be very fun to be able to see when it's going to grow, and we're going to see all those running nodes be able to really connect with each other also later on in Tatum. Regarding that, actually, will, for example, today a Raspberry Pi be enough? What's actually today, so it's more than enough to be able to run a node, but in 5 years from here, will it still be enough, or will it need much more bandwidth? How would that actually be?
Oh, it's. I think the requirements will only get smaller, so it should be enough also in the future. Like if we are able to do some optimizations or whatever related to memory usage or something like that. So yeah, definitely now and in the future, it will work just fine. Running nodes in the Streamr network is not very heavy. Like it's nothing like mining Bitcoin or anything. It's rather lightweight. And later on, if you're mining a lot of streams, like in Tatum, when the market for that opens, then maybe you're mining a lot of streams and there's a lot of traffic going through your node, then of course the limitations of your hardware can limit the potential of your node. So with a small node you can do small mining, and with a bigger node you can do bigger mining. That's of course very natural.
Okay, awesome. I see a lot of people talking also about can we have the personal targets data price from Henri, and these kind of questions of for the price of the token. I think we're not actually able to, or we're not allowed even to be able to talk about it. There's also some people talking about airdrops. Of course, this is always something great to see. The only thing that we can maybe add is the data union airdrop. Maybe would you like to talk a little bit about that? For the data token holders?
Sure. So the data union framework is being spinned off into a separate project. As many of you know, it was decided on in the Streamr DAO. It was one of the SIPs. I don't remember the number anymore. But anyway, and that is in progress. The 40% of the union token will be airdropped to data token holders over time. So it will be like monthly airdrop or something like that. But it will only start when the token launches, and that's still being prepared. And the project is basically like in fundraising in private rounds at the moment. So things are making progress. There's no terrible rush because it's going well and the product already exists and there are already builders on it. So in some way, even though it's a new project, it's kind of mature already because of its history inside the Streamr project. So I suppose we're taking our time in pushing that forward, but looks like it's quite positive. Of course, the current market conditions are not ideal for raising money in the first place. Some VCs are more careful now. But on the other hand, it's also a good opportunity to participate in the markets because everything is a little bit cheaper than before. So many VCs also see it as an opportunity. But I guess it remains to be seen how it will go. So I think towards the end of the year we'll know more about how that project is getting going. But there's definitely like the promise of the airdrop. So if the Data Union DAO gets going and launches the token, then there will be this airdrop, definitely. And on the market conditions in general, like I know many of you are watching the markets and seeing, and there has been like a lot of turmoil, and Data token, of course, has been affected by the overall crypto market conditions. Now, no one, of course, has the crystal ball, but at least it can be somewhat analyzed as what are the kind of reasons behind the market conditions. And there's so many factors influencing it, not only the kind of economical or macroeconomical policies, mainly the Fed raising rates in the US to combat the rising inflation, and as a kind of hangover from the loose monetary policies that size not only due to the COVID pandemic, but also already from the financial crisis in 2008, 2009. So yeah, if you drink all night, you have to have the hangover on the following day. It's just how it goes. But then, of course, the war in Ukraine is a factor. That's very clear. And then additionally, the Terra Luna disaster added to the mix. So there's many things influencing the markets at this time. Some of them are kind of understandable for me, at least personally, like the monetary policies influencing things. But on the other hand, I think the Terra Luna disaster has created a lot of market panic that reflects in the overall space on every token and every asset and every outlook in the space, even though it was basically just one project that screwed up. And it's kind of hurting everyone. So is that justified or not? Everyone can maybe weigh that question in their own heads. But yeah, a lot of questions to answer, and no one knows what the direction of the future is. But it's quite clear that some hot air has been blown out. It's not the only crash we've gone through. We also survived the 2018 crash and the following crypto winter very well, and recovered from that. And in general, I think that the projects that have good teams and good fundamentals and are building something hopefully useful for the future will survive any market conditions. So quite confident about the Streamr project in itself, but won't speculate on on the token or its future, unfortunately, as we're not able to do that.
Okay, thank you. Always great to have your vision as well, and just your thoughts on the market as well. I think it's not easy for everyone. As you also mentioned, I think Terra Luna did had an impact on a lot of people, but also on a lot of different projects, and also made people think a little bit more like, oh, okay, maybe we should think a little bit more about security. I think this is something that a lot of people are really putting on the side today in the crypto space, is about security, and this is very important. Can you just tell us a little bit maybe about the security today at Streamr? Can there be maybe like an attack at Streamr, and what can be maybe the results of that, and how we can maybe also avoid getting attacked?
Well, I guess there's many different types of attacks, like starting from someone can kidnap you and put a gun to your head and say that, hey, send me some tokens. So there's various defenses for the kind of treasury management. We have most assets are owned by multisigs or otherwise cold wallets that cannot be accessed so easily. So that's one defense. Then if you look at like purely how the network works, it's there's a lot of redundancy in there. So in this type of message passing networks, the most typical attack is an Eclipse attack, where an attacker adds a lot of nodes into the network, trying to dominate the message passing topologies, and then they can if they manage to kind of eclipse a node so that a node's all connections are to these malicious nodes, then they can apply censorship or something like this. And that's possible, but there's a lot of redundancy in the Streamr network, so it's not so easy to do eclipse attacks, and also the topologies are random, so nodes cannot choose their neighbors, so making targeted attacks is harder. So that's kind of attacks on the network side. And then if you look at the kind of token and the blockchain side of things, then there the security relies on the blockchain. So if your tokens are on Ethereum, then the security of Ethereum is what you're kind of playing with. If you bridge your tokens to Polygon, then it's the security of Polygon that determines the fate of your tokens. So we are kind of for the money. For the money, the security of Streamr is fully dependent on the security of the blockchains. So we don't kind of need to solve that part. So in that way, for example, it's quite quite different from for example, the Terra Luna case. But there also the blockchain itself worked okay, but the kind of economics between the Luna token and the stablecoin UST were difficult in the sense that they could be. It was like a flywheel effect, that there was a stablecoin that was backed by this, fully backed by this speculative token, and then if the hot air gets blown out, then the stablecoin doesn't really stand on any firm ground. It's a reminder, I think, for people to do their own research, as the mechanism of Luna and UST and the coupling of those were quite well described in their documentation. So I think the risk was fairly obvious, but although of course it could have worked, I suppose, but it sounded like a risky idea.
Yeah, and with a lot of capitalization, so always it's not great to see when it crashes after, I think, for a lot of people, but yeah, it's
definitely
do your own research. I think it's really one of the keys here in cryptocurrencies. Very, very important. I agree. Maybe I just have a last question for you here today in this stream. What are your thoughts about Ethereum 2.0? Of course, we know that Vitalik wanted to push this before. It should normally come very soon, but we know what very soon can also mean. What is your thoughts on 2.0, and can this have an impact also on Streamr?
Yeah, I'm extremely excited about it and very optimistic. I think it's the most interesting development in the crypto space this year, for sure. Looking at it broadly, of course, I'm excited about some Streamr stuff and whatnot, but looking at it broadly, very happy to see this happening. It's a gigantic project to move something that is so valuable and so widely adopted from a proof of work to proof of stake. It's like it's nowhere near like building a nuclear power plant or something. That's simple in comparison. It's like building like 1,000 nuclear power plants. on all kind of terrain and whatever. Yeah. So lots of respect to the Ethereum Foundation and the work that they are doing. I think it's highly important for the planet. Ethereum has by far the biggest builder community and the biggest network effects. The whole ecosystem is, I think, only improved by the various other L1s and L2s that are kind of popping up on the side, but Ethereum is still able to offer the longest track record and arguably the best security in there. The merge doesn't yet solve all the problems of Ethereum. In particular, I guess it doesn't introduce the sharding at this stage yet, so it won't really go much faster than before, but it will be much more environmentally friendly, of course, and maybe also more inclusive in the sense that not many people are able to run like their own mining rigs, but probably many can participate in staking and especially in delegation. So I think it's very good also for the Ethereum community. And as always, we've been, an integral part of the Ethereum community and will continue to be so. Although are of course looking to expand to other chains where something interesting is happening. But I think our home turf has been and will continue to be the broad Ethereum space. And at the very center of the broad Ethereum space, there is Ethereum itself. And that is getting a significant upgrade, and that's awesome. And yeah, I encourage everyone to participate in that change if you can. And I think it's great for the network to get more people staking there as well and running nodes. And it's much easier now with Ethereum 2.0. You can run like a Raspberry Pi instead of like renting a data center like inside a mountain in Norway to to participate in the security of the network. So that's like many orders of magnitude easier and more inclusive.
I agree, 100%. I can't wait to see this proof of stake, how it will run as well in Ethereum. It's going to be a very exciting moment, 100%. I see a lot of questions also related to the token. People who are wondering if we could create a second token to pay the people at the staking, these kind of questions. So the only thing maybe
token.
Yeah. Okay. So do you want to say something based on that?
No, I don't know what the proposal is.
Yeah, that was a proposal, I think. But I wanted to actually say, I'm just going to send here also the link of Discord in the chat. So feel free to jump in and ask these kind of questions also there, because we have a lot of active people who are actually also sharing a lot of the same ideas as well. So feel free to jump there to have a chat with everyone. I will be very happy to also get into a chat with you guys and see what kind of possibilities there is. Of course, there's sometimes ideas that will, of course, never bring anything, but everything that's written in Discord, we really try to take it seriously, and we also share this with the team later on. So everything is really important, and we really try to listen to the community. So feel free to jump into the Discord. Very happy to answer there. Besides that, Henri, would you like to add something else that you want to share with us today, or you think we did quite the round today?
Yeah, there were good questions, and I'm really glad that we are doing this very regularly now. Questions are always new, like every time there's new questions, so that's great. It doesn't feel too repetitive, I suppose. There are some topics we didn't discuss today, like the open data push or the Streamr hub stuff that we've been planning, but we haven't really communicated that much out about those yet. So maybe we can talk about those. next time.
Yeah.
And there will probably be some blog posts in the meanwhile, so then you'll all know what we are talking about. But anyway, there's some work that we're doing at the moment that we haven't yet really published.
Exactly.
Maybe hinted about in some earlier AMAs. But no, I think this is great. So thanks for joining. I feel like I'm coming to just have a coffee with some friends and chat about the project, and I'm literally having some coffee.
Exactly. Awesome. You didn't drink a lot, if I'm correct.
No, I just brought the coffee here for that to drink. Now it's cold. To make
awesome. But yeah, but I agree, and I think people really like this. It really makes this kind of open conversation as well. It's really fun. I think we can answer a lot of great questions, and it's always fun to be able to have you on board for this, to be honest. So I'm not going to give any dates now, but I think in maybe 2 or maximum 3 weeks, we'll be able to talk about all these other topics as well. So for everyone who's listening at this moment, and also for the next MEAs, feel free to post as well your questions in the Discord. I really try to take all the questions, and for the next live that we will do together with Henri, we will try to answer them as well.
Yeah, and it's great that you've been doing also some AMAs with others in the team. So it's not actually just me and Anthony in the Streamr team. There are
a lot of people there. So I think you did one with Matthew recently. Exactly.
And maybe some other ones. So yeah, stay tuned for those.
This Friday, actually, also. So this week, Friday, we're going to have 2 people who is going to join for the first time. We're going to have Juuso, I'm very bad with names, who's going to join as well. And we're going to also have Eric, who joined already once, I think, in a live stream.
Okay, cool.
So,
tech AMA.
A technical MAA. It's going to be awesome.
That'll be great, yeah.
Exactly.
Juuso really likes to talk. You will see.
Awesome, cool. I can't wait to see that.
Smart and verbal guy.
Awesome, cool. Okay, great. It was really fun. Thank you very much, Henri, today for this video. And we will see each other very, very soon. Good luck with the work and everything. And I wish you a very good evening.
Thanks a lot. You too. And thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much, everyone.